Hello Game Makers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in this episode we will be covering a save and load system for our RPG Starter Kit series, and we'll also be displaying the hero's name, level and gold based on the save slot too. So let's get started. So going to the create event of OBJ init, and we're going to have a new region called Game States, and we're going to be using a few of these game states today. Title screen isn't implemented, but I'm sure you can guess what that's for. Save slots is going to display our 3 save slots, and when you press OK on one of those slots, depending on whether the save file exists or not, whether there's an existing save file there, 2 things are going to happen. If it's a new game, then the state's going to be set to new game. We're going to be sent to the first room, and then the very next step afterwards, the game is going to be saved to the new slot. This is because of the type of save that we're going to be using. I'll show you later on, but that's what this is for. Apart from that, if there is an existing save and we press on that, then the state is going to be set to ready, and the game is just going to be loaded automatically from there. We don't need to do anything else. Selected option and max options, this is just so we can cycle through the save slots pressing up and down, and we're going to start our state at save slots because we don't have a title screen. Global.save slot, this is just used to tell our game which save slot has just been saved or we're about to delete, and that's it really. We could use selected option for that, but I'd rather make it a bit clearer what's happening by using global.save slot. That's the only real reason that I did that. And also, we don't need this anymore. You can either comment out or delete room go to or in village. Sometimes I like to leave it in because it's easier to test than having to make a new game, and especially when we have like a name creator and maybe other things you have in your game, you don't want to do that every time you start a new game, just to test it. So once that is done, we are going to go into, we're going to have a new event. We're going to have a draw GUI event. So it's checking if the state is save slots. Just going to set up some drawing coordinates. Oh, I do have a new sprite. It's a GUI button sprite. It's just a length of 320 and a height of 96, and it's centered in the middle. So we're going to be drawing 3 of those in a for loop as usual. YY is going to change based on which save slot we want to draw. And one other thing I need to show you about the sprite is there's 2 images for it. The second image I use to show if it's highlighted, and the first image is for the ones that aren't highlighted. And the way we change that is if selected option, which starts at 0, is equal to save slots, so which part of the for loop we're in, then index equals 1, so draw the second index, otherwise index is 0. And then we're just going to draw the sprite. So this is going to happen 3 times, and on one of them this condition is going to be true, so only one of them is going to have the white border, the rest are going to have the grey border. This line here, this is checking whether a save file exists for that slot. The way that I have formatted the names for the save files is just RPG save, and then it'll be 0 dot dat, and the other 2 will be 1 and 2, like that. So those are the names of the save files, but they're only going to exist if we start a game in that slot. So that's why we're checking for that there. Don't think I need to explain this. And basically, if there is no file in that slot, then it's going to say no data. So at the start of it, when we first start the game, all we should see is 3 lots of no data, and the first slot will have the white border. So just run the game, make sure that we're all up to the same point. So there we go, we've got 3 bars, they all say no data, and the top one has a white border. Okay, so before we do anything else, I want to show you this save game script. When I was looking at the different ways to save games, the ones I've used before is saving to .ini files and using JSON. I also found game save, which I've never used before, but it's actually kind of perfect for the kind of game that we're making. I'm going to show you what the help file says about it. So it's limited and designed for beginners to get a save system up and running quickly. More advanced users may prefer to code their own. This is because the game will not save any of the dynamic resources like data structures, surfaces, added backgrounds, and sprites. So what this is talking about is, say for example, we are using DS lists to store all of the players' data, and it gets changed during the game. That's not going to be saved to game save. Any sprites we create during the game aren't going to be saved. Any surfaces that we make during the game aren't going to be saved. But we don't actually do any of those things. We don't create extra sprites. We don't make new surfaces. And the only data lists we use are for the battle, where we're saving the spells that the player knows, and that's it. So for the game as it is so far, game save and game load are perfect. It's just really easy to implement. The only thing I need to explain really is the format for the save games. So there's going to be 3 save slots, and they're going to be called RPG save 0.dat, RPG save 1.dat, and RPG underscore save underscore 2.dat. So those are the actual file names we're going to be using for our 3 save slots. So that's what this bit is all about. Working directory, if you middle mouse click on that, and then the way that I do it is copy this here, put it into search, and then whatever the name of your game is. So for me it's TUT RPG Starter Kit. Well, it would show up, but I haven't made any save games in this. But for the copy that I've got, you can see I've got some save games there. So this is for later on in the tutorial, but this is one of the save files that I've just been talking about. So that's how it will look after you saved a game. Obviously you're not going to see anything now because we haven't saved any games. So just copy this down, and then we're going to have SCR load game. So it's just going to load that save game, and it's going to set the state of the game to ready. So the game just continues from the save slot. If you've ever played any games on an emulator like ZNES, anything, or ZSNES, sorry, anything like that, game save and game load work exactly like that. It's basically a screenshot of your game as it is, and when you load the game with game load, you start off exactly from where you left it. Okay, so back into OBJ init, and in the step event we're gonna add this. So load game, oops, try that again. So load game, this is only gonna run if the state is save slots. If we press down, if we're already on the bottom slot, then go to the top one. If you press up, then go up a save slot. If we're already on the top one, then go to the bottom one. If we press OK, this is where we're going to save. Sorry, this is where we're either going to start a new game or load a saved game. So global.save slot is going to be 0, 1, or 2. Check that the file exists. If it does, then we're going to run SCR load game, which, as I said, will load the game like a snapshot of the game where we left it, and also set the game to ready, game state to ready. Otherwise, if we've just clicked on, if there's no existing save slot, then it's a new game. So we set the state to new game, and we are going to go to the village. I'll get back to this in a minute because we cover new game in a different event. Else, if we press cancel, then check which slot selected option is on, so 0, 1, or 2, and we're going to delete the save file. We're just going to get rid of it, and that's going to be it for the step event. Okay, so now we're going to create a new event for OBJ init. It's going to be the end step event. We're going to call it check for new game, and if the state is set to new game, then we are going to run the save game script, and then we're going to set the state to ready. The state is going to be new game if there's no data in the slot. So if the slot says no data, why are we doing it in the end step? That's because if we try and save the game here, the way that room goto works, this only happens after all the step events have finished. So we need to go to the village first, and then we're going to be, it's going to create all the objects and stuff like NPCs and the player. And then in the end step event, after that's happened, then we're going to save the game. So that's why we do it there. So now we can actually test this out. If you run the game and pick any slot, make sure up, down, left, and right is working. So up and down is working. I'm going to pick the middle slot, and I'm just starting this room. And if you close the game and run it again, you can see the middle slot that I chose doesn't say no data anymore. And if I click on it, I'll appear in the same place. If we just check local data again, so I'm going to do it the long way around. So now you know how before I didn't have a folder for this particular project? Well, now I do. That's because it contains the save file that I made, and because it was the middle slot, it's a 1 rather than a 0, and you should have something similar on your system now as well. So the next thing we want to do is we want to update our battle spawn object so that we go to the last place we saved. So inside the step event, do a search for battle over, and we should be in the battle over region. And instead of room goto player died, we're just going to do SCR load game. You could have some kind of animation or text in room died and then have an object load the game. But for me personally, for testing, I'm just going to load the game straight away. So if we now run the game, I've set my player stats to one hit point. So the slime should kill me straight away. Attack the slime. Slime kills us, and we jump back to where we were. I think maybe like a fade out and a fade back in would be a nicer effect than what happens right now. But what's important anyway for now is that the functionality works. So we're going back to where we saved. We're gonna be saving at the innkeeper now as well. That's going to be the next thing we'll cover. So okay, so now we are going to incorporate saving into our innkeeper, because normally it's the innkeeper where you can save your game and stuff. The way I've done mine is if you press the cancel button when talking to the innkeeper, then you'll save the game. If you rest as well, then you'll save the game. If you just walk away, then you do not save the game. So the first thing we need to do is inside the create event of obj init, in NPC text, I've just added this bit here to the innkeeper, where he says press cancel to save. That's it. It's just a prompt for the player, really. And in obj player, in the step event, in the talking region, and in innkeeper, I've added something similar. Press cancel to save. And in the move away from NPC and stop talking region, inside this bit here, I've added one line. So if it's an innkeeper and we press cancel, then save the game. And one last thing is inside our obj goodnight. This is the object that moves the player, heals him, and does the fade in, fade out. So in the step event, in the fade in part, we're going to update the text to say game saved, and we're going to run the save game script here, like so. And that's it. So if we now run the game, so I'm going to load the previous save. At the moment I have 1 hit point of 10. I'm going to go and speak to the innkeeper. Why hasn't his text changed? Oh, I know why. Oh, so that's one thing I forgot. So when we save the game, it's going to load the game from a previous point. So those text changes that we just made aren't going to appear in this. So I'm just going to run the game again, but I'm going to do it from a new save. I'm actually going to delete the save that I've already made, and then I'm going to run the game from the top slot. So speak to the innkeeper. So now he says press cancel to save. So I've pressed cancel. The game should have saved. I'm now going to die to a slime. So the slime's killed me, and I've respawned where I saved the game. So I'm going to speak to the innkeeper again. I'm going to rest and get all my health back. So now I have 10 health. So I should be able to survive more than 1 hit from a slime now. And we'll do another test as well. So this guy is going to give me a quest to kill 2 slimes. I'm going to go out and kill 1. Then I'm going to go and save the game. I'll rest. Then I'll close it down and then run the game again. And then I should only have to kill 1 slime, and the NPC should give me a prize. This is just to prove that everything is working as intended. So, kill 1 more slime. I'll use a magic wand and then go and speak to the NPC, and he gives us a prize. Same thing with the Demon Lord. So now he should have spawned if we save the game again and then load it. We should then see the Demon Lord. So in all the testing that I've done off camera and on, I haven't found any problems with game save, game load. All the globals and all the player information, that's all saved. You can see I've got 3 XP from the 3 slimes that I've killed so far. So yeah, it's looking good so far. And to be honest, that's pretty much it for saving and loading. Whenever I think of a save game system for RPGs, I always think of Zelda, the SNES game. So the next bit is entirely optional, because I'm going to display the player's name, the player's level, and the player gold, as well as the player sprite on save slots where there is a game, just to make it a bit more visual. But there's probably as much work in doing that than there was for the rest of it. So that's why I'm telling you it is kind of optional, because there's other things you could put there instead. So if you want to stick with me, then the first thing we're going to do is obj init, and in the draw GUI event, then we're going to add, so after, if we're checking that the file doesn't exist, otherwise if the file does exist, then we're going to draw the player sprite. So player X and player Y are just going to get the coordinates, and draw sprite X ext. The actual player sprite is 16 by 16, so if we just draw that, it's going to be really small. So we're going to be using the X scale and Y scale part of this function to increase the size by 4. Player image, so we want the sprite to animate, so we're going to add player image as well. That's going to go from 0 to however many images there are in the sprite, and then it's going to go back to 0 again, and that's going to animate the sprite. And all that we need to do now, just to at least test that this is working, is to go into obj init and the step event, and inside our load game region, at the very bottom of this, so inside if state equals game states.saveslot, underneath here, just before the last bracket, we're going to put this. So like I said, player image plus equal to 0.25. I did that because I wanted to round up to whole numbers, and then all I'm saying is if the player image is greater than however many images are in the sprite, then set the player image back to 0. And we just need to copy and paste this and initialize it in the create event of obj init. We will do that here. There we go. So now if we run the game, we should be able to see our character walking in the save slot like that. So we're going to be adding name, level and gold to it as well. It sounds quite a simple thing to do, but we can't pull the information from the save game without loading it, and if we load it, we're going to be skipping past this screen. So we are going to need to create an extra file, and we're going to be saving a string. We're going to be saving the player's name, level and gold into a string, and then we're going to be passing that string through a for loop like we do in the talking text region, and that's how we're going to be displaying the data on the save file without actually loading the game. Alright, the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to do a small update to our save game script. So this stuff is new, so we need to save the player's name, level and gold, and the format. So I said we're going to save the information as a string, and the format we're going to save it as will be the save slot, so 0, 1 or 2, then underscore, hero name, underscore level, underscore gold, and then underscore. Like I said, it's just for displaying these values on the save slots. We're not going to use that information to load stats or something. Again, the underscore on the end is intentional because we're going to use that to let us know when we finished getting the information from Hero Gold, and it's going to let us save it to an array. So play data equals global.pl stats name plus the underscore, then plus level plus underscore plus gold plus underscore. That's going to save a string into play data. Then we're going to open a new file. So the way that file text open works, file text open write works, is if there's an existing file called this, it will open it. If that file doesn't exist, it will just make it. So you don't need to check that it exists first. So we're going to save player data, the string of this, underneath or within the file called SaveStat. It's going to be saved under save stats underscore 0102 underscore stats.dat. So there's going to be 3 possible files like that. And then we're just going to write the file, or sorry, we're going to write this string to the file and then close the file. We don't need to do anything in load game because we're not interested in loading this. It's just for display purposes. Okay, so there's 2 more things we need to do before we can finish this episode. The first thing is inside the create event of obj init. We're going to have a new enumerator called eSaveSlotStats, and it's going to contain name, level, and gold. This is simply for displaying that information on the save slot. It's not for anything else, and it's just to make it easier to read later on. And also, this whole region, this whole new region, we're still inside game states. So within game states, we're going to have this whole new region called load display strings for save slots, and it's going to come after player image equals 0. So we need to store, or we potentially need to store, the name, level, and gold for 3 save slots. So we're going to create a default entry for name, level, and gold for all 3 save slots. That's what this for loop is for, and that's why it's a 0 to less than 3, because it's 3 save slots. And again, this part of the for loop, we need to run this bit 3 times because we're going to check it for 3 save slots. It just saves us typing this 3 times or copy and pasting 3 times. That's why we've got the extra bit of the for loop there. And all this is going to do really is very similar to our talking region in the player talking region, sorry. It's just going to check the string letter by letter, and it's going to first of all check to see if a file exists. So whether this bit has run, basically. It's going to check if that's been done. And if it has, so if it exists, then all of this is going to run. It's going to check the whole string. Save stat string is going to store the same information as player data, so basically the player's name, level, and gold. And all we're doing, so if for example the file exists, it's going to run through this whole loop. It's going to add letters or numbers to entry string, and when it hits an underscore, it's going to save entry string to one of these 3 areas. So current entry for save slot starts at 0, which is here, name, and when entry string gets to an underscore, then entry string is going to be saved in name, and then we're going to increase current entry for save slot by 1. So then all of this is going to run again until we get to an underscore, and then entry string is going to get saved to level, and all this is going to run again, and then entry string is going to get saved to gold. So that's what the whole thing does in more detail. So for var car equals start car, car is less than end car, car plus plus, we're just going to check the whole string. Current car holds a letter or a number or underscore. If it's not an underscore, it just gets added to entry string. If it is the underscore, then update the entry slot and increase this value by 1 so we can do the whole thing. And don't forget to reinitialize entry string. This bit here isn't strictly necessary because by the time current entry for save slot gets to 3, we'll be at the end of the string, and then slots will go to the next one, and current entry for save slot gets reinitialized anyway. But I just wanted you to keep that in there for like a visual aid, visual guide, just to make things a bit more readable. And also here, if file exists, this bit will run. However, if file does not exist, then you can show yourself a debug message just to confirm that it doesn't exist, and debug messages show up in the output region. It's quite useful, but again, the reason this is commented out is because you don't need it. It's just something to help you debug if needed. So that's the create event done, and now we are going to finish this off in the draw GUI region. I can uncomment this bit out now. All this is going to do is it's going to draw the name Lvl Gold, which is stored in a slave slot info, and the particular array we're going to read depends on save slots, which is from 0 to 2, which is set here, and that's it really. So if you run the game and you try to load your current save, it's going to crash because of our changes. So just delete it with cancel, start a new game, and let's just save at the innkeeper. And if we then close the game down and run it again, you can now see the name of the hero, the hero's level, and his gold as well. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to let me know if you have any more suggestions for the starter kit, because we're getting close to the end now. There's only a few more features to implement. But apart from that, thank you for watching, and bye for now.